Thank you. Let me just speak for a moment about immigrant entrepreneurship and specifically about entrepreneurship that creates wealth and economic opportunity. When I became Treasurer of the Commonwealth, I asked a very simple question. I said, where are the taxpayers' cash? Where does it sit? And I found that the bulk of the cash was sitting outside the borders of the United States. Not in small banks, not in local banks, not in community banks, not here in Massachusetts, but outside the borders. I said there's got to be a fundamental principle here, and that's Massachusetts taxpayers' money should be deposited in local banks to be loaned to small local businesses that are creditworthy to create jobs right here in the Commonwealth. And out of that, the Small Business Banking Partnership was born, and to date, we put almost $250 million into 43 banks. A really important development. But policy is not interesting unless policy affects people's lives. So I want to tell you a story. I got a call one day from John Boucher. John Boucher is the president of South Shore Savings Bank, one of the first banks to take $5 million in deposits from the Commonwealth. And he said, Steve, I'd like you to come down to Weymouth to present a loan to one of our customers. I said, fine. I drove down to Weymouth on a misty afternoon, parked in front of Stone Design, and went inside. And together we talked about and presented this loan. Stone Design is owned by a man named Hoa Vu. Hoa Vu is a Vietnamese immigrant, came to the United States in 1980. He had no language skills. He had no technical skills. He didn't have a spouse. He didn't have children. The only thing he had was a dream, and that is that somebody had told him that if you go to the United States and you work hard and play by the rules, you can make it in the United States, but you're going to have to work very hard. He believed that person, and he came here. And along the way, this Vietnamese immigrant met an Irish stonecutter named Chris, who coincidentally had fought in the United States Army in Vietnam 35 years ago. And they teamed up, and they started a company. Stone Design does stone cutting. They cut granite, they cut marble, they do finishing, they do grills, outdoor grills, they do kitchen islands, they do vanities in your kitchen. They have 8 people working there. And because of this loan that South Shore Bank was willing to give to Hoa Vu, he is able to take this company, grow this company, and hopefully grow it from 8 to 12 people. So after the mayor spoke, and the state representative spoke, and the banker spoke, and the state treasurer spoke, and people were preparing to leave, I said, wait a second, the most important person has not spoken. And Hoa Vu came to the microphone. He was flanked by his son Johnson on one side, his son Peter on the other side. His daughter is at Weymouth High School, couldn't be there. His wife was off doing her job. And he looked out at the crowd and he said, I could never imagine this day would come, that I would be getting a loan from a bank to grow my business. He said, all these years that I've been here, I dreamed about this business and dreamed about what it would mean to my children. And as he spoke and his 2 boys looked up at him, I said, this is the promise of America. This is what immigrant entrepreneurship is all about. This is about a banking program that puts money into gateway cities with a focus on women-owned and minority-owned businesses, because women-owned and minority-owned businesses have always lacked the capital they need to grow. They have always been underbanked. And the idea that we would take our taxpayers' money and put it to work in credit-worthy loans to a man like Hoa Vu, who's going to grow his business and is going to turn it over someday to one of his children or 2 or all 3 of his children, that's the promise of America. And what binds us together tonight is an unshakable commitment, an unshakable sense of optimism that immigrant entrepreneurship has driven the future of this country, has driven its past, and our best days are ahead if we remember that all of those who come are entitled to that opportunity. If they're willing to work hard, play by those rules, work hard, and compete, if we create a level playing field, it is going to be an extraordinary 21st century here in Massachusetts for all of us in all of our communities. Thank you so much.